Welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Senapaduratna. Grab your favorite drink, get a snack, and we will get started. Today I have raspberry lemonade. I know I'm changing it up. And I have a cheese stick. So let's get real. I am loving walking through the Bible right now. And I came upon 3 chapters in the Bible that most of us just skim right over and move on. So I'm reading the end of Genesis. And I'm guessing most people go, oh, I have hit this area. Now I'm moving straight to Judges or Joshua. Everything in between we'll skip, right? It's a lot of rules and regulations and lists of names, and that is my kind of place. And I'm listening to these 3 chapters, and once again, I'm in the car when I'm doing this. Woo! It was so fun, and I was so enjoying the detail of God describing how he wants his tabernacle to be built. You know, when you were back earlier in Genesis and he's describing how he wants the ark built, those pieces are so intriguing to me because I am kind of a craftsman myself, not with tools or anything cool like that, but with a hot glue gun. Like, give me a hot glue gun and something from the Dollar Tree and I will whip you up whatever you need. So I love watching how God is like, you know, when you're making these robes for my priests, make sure that there's gold thread in them. And when you're doing the tapestries, make sure there's red and blue. And I'm like, wow, God is so detail orientated. And it just blows me away. When you continue on to Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy, like the details that God gives us are just incredible. Like, he doesn't miss anything, you know, when he's talking about like what animals to eat and what animals not to eat. Like, he's naming more owls than I even knew existed. I'm like, who knew there was more than one kind of owl? God does, right? So I'm reading through this and I just was so blown away that the thought came to my head that maybe, I don't know, shouldn't have come to my head. But it was the thought of, because I'm a craftsman, I see the details in things that I make that no one else sees. So I do a lot of wreaths for my front door. And I just finished one. Actually, the one on my door right now is my daughter's birthday wreath. I do a birthday wreath every year because I just love wreaths. And I love her birthday. So anyway, before that, it was a door that I made. And on there, I hot glued a word called gather. And not that I ever have anyone to my house, but it looked appropriate, right? And from afar, it is so cute. It is one of my favorite wreaths I've ever made. In fact, I'm going to put it on Instagram and Facebook so you can see it because it is one of my faves. Anyway, I made this beautiful wreath, and from afar, it is just so, it's so lovely, and it's striking on my white door. It's a red, I think it's red. And I'm like, I don't know because I can't see it. Anyway. And then I get up close and I see the details and I see the things that kind of drive me crazy. Okay, the thing that drives me crazy is the hot glue strings. Now, if you've never worked with hot glue, it's okay. You don't have the blisters that the rest of us do. But there's hot glue strings that get stuck. And when you put up a word, sometimes the hot glue strings get stuck between the letters. And it drives me crazy because I walk up and that's the first thing I see when I'm up close are these small little imperfections and these small little details that I'm guessing anybody else who's come to my house has never seen them and never looked. And I love that God, our creator, knows every detail about us inside and out. He knows every detail of our lives. And he knows every sin, and he knows every joy and every worry and every freckle on my face. Like, he knows those things and he notices them and he loves me. There's a song that, now of course I've blanked, but there's a song out there that talks about God loves me for who I am. And he loves me. He made me who I am and he loves me. And I love that because we so often get stuck in like, we need to be a better person and we need to sin less and we need to do better things. And we get all caught up in that, not realizing that God is our creator and he knows every detail with us. When I look at one of the crafts that I made or a wreath that I made, I know every detail. I know everything I did to get that to where it is. I know every place that I made a mistake, although God doesn't make mistakes, but I know everything about that craft. And I know everything that happened to my poor little fingers that have blisters all over it because I touched the hot glue before you should touch it. And yes, I have changed that pattern, and I did get those little things at the Dollar Tree that you put on your finger. Anyway, if you haven't done that, we'll talk about it later. But when I look at my crafts and I look at a puzzle that I did or a diamond dots that I did, I know the detail in those things that no one else sees. In fact, I have a diamond dot up in my pantry, and when you open the door, it says, "Life is what you bake it," because I love to bake. I don't do it much anymore, but I love to bake. And I looked at it the other day, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's missing little pieces, teeny tiny little piece diamonds. They're not real diamonds. If you've never done diamond dots, they're little pieces of plastic. I'm not hot gluing diamonds around here, guys. Podcasting is not that fluid. Anyway, and I noticed there were several that were missing. And I was like, I bet no one else would even see that. But God does. God sees when things are off. God sees the details of your life. God sees what you're worried about. He sees if you gain an ounce. He sees when you lose an ounce. He celebrates with you in every victory, and he cries with you with every loss. He sees those things. You know why? Because he's your creator. And he's the one that put everything into you. You did not just come off of a lottery. You are not a lottery piece. You know, the lottery is such chance and just everything just got smacked together and here's what happened. That is not how you were created. You were created by the God of the universe, and he took into mind what details went into your life. And I love that. When I was a kid, I hated that I was the shortest in my family. My brother's like 6'3", my sister's like 4'9", 5'9", 5'11", something somewhere in there, and I am 5'3". Well, I think I'm 5'5" now, but then I was 5'3", and I'm like, why am I like the short one here? I am significantly shorter than everyone else in my family. And this is kind of crazy, and it really drove me crazy. I'm like, if I was my sister's height, I would be a willow of a person, you know, like super thin because I'm super tall. Yeah, so that was my theory. Don't go down the theory. It's okay. I was a child. And I was really upset by that. And then I realized, actually just a couple weeks ago, not even that far, and I was thinking about Amy Carmichael, who we can talk about another time, and her brown eyes and how God gave her brown eyes. And it was kind of something in my spirit that was like, you remember when you were upset about being short? Well, your husband's short. Now, he's not short. He's just about my height. We're about both 5'5". And if I were any taller, I'd be like towering over him as the rest of the Jensens do, right? But God made me specifically that detail of my life. He made me my height, so I would be eye level with my husband, which is such a blessing in my life. Although I don't wear heels, so because first of all, they're uncomfortable, so I'm not going to wear them. Anyway, but I love that God cared enough about who he made me to make me eye level with my husband. And I love that he cares about those small details in my life. He cares. He did not just whip me together and say, let's see how this works. I am his masterpiece. I am something he took time at and he cared about. When you read through the Bible and you read through the things that God asked people to do and the details that he gives to Moses, I mean, when you read through Leviticus and Genesis and Numbers when you read through those books, you see how much God really cares. He cares about golden thread. How much more does he care about you? How much more does he care about the things that you're carrying on your shoulders right now? Those worries and those things that you're like, I don't want to bother him. I don't want to, he's got enough on his plate and I've asked him for too much already. I don't need to bother him with this little teeny detail that really doesn't matter. I can fix it myself. He cares about that. He is the creator, and he's made you his masterpiece. He cares about every hair on your head. He cares about every freckle. And he cares about everything that is inside of you. And I just love that. I love that he cares enough about my worries and concerns that when I say, God, I'm worried, he's going to stop and say, Jenny, let's talk about it. I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm your creator and I love you. I love you the way that I made you. You don't need to change. You don't need to become a superhuman for God to love you. He loves you because he created you the way you are. Should we grow and become better people? Yeah, I suppose. There's always room for growth, right? But God loves you where you are. And I love that. When you have children, I only have one, so I don't really have the idea of different children having different personalities. I can't imagine that you don't have a favorite, because I have a favorite. I have one and she's my favorite. But when God looks at me, I know I'm his favorite. And you can believe you're his favorite too, because that's what God says, right? But I know I'm his favorite. I know that he made me just the way I need to be to do what he's called me to do. So this week, as we move forward and we are like, Lord, I'm overwhelmed, know that he cares. He cares about your fears. He cares about your worries. He cares about your victories. He cares about the freckles. He cares about everything because he is a God of the details. Well, you can find me at Real Life with Jenny on Instagram and on Facebook. You can also find me at christconnection.cc/Jen. Now, when we're talking about details, I'm going to take a second and say, wherever you're listening to this podcast, would you take a minute and just rate it for me? Go on and give it however many stars you want to give it. I would prefer if it weren't one, but you do you. If you would take some time and rate it and share this podcast with someone that you love and just say, hey, you know what? Listen, get a cup of tea and just take 15 minutes for yourself. You may not learn, you may have a giggle, you may have a cry, but just join us. That would be great. You all have a really great week as we learn to trust that God understands your details and he loves you and he has made you his masterpiece.